Once you see the kernels turn opaque, you want to add the white wine, and just enough to cover the rice. After it evaporates, begin to ladle in the broth. Add the hot broth only 1 ladleful at a time, and wait until all the liquid has been absorbed before adding the next ladle, keeping the rice at a gentle simmer, not boiling. A fundamental element in the making of a good risotto is the broth. Making a broth from scratch is easy and it makes amazing risotto. The ratio of rice to broth is about 1 to 3.5, but if you have broth left over at the end, it's okay. You don't need to add every last drop. You always want to have your broth simmering before adding it into the risotto to prevent their delicate starches from hardening during the cooking process. I think almost every cook believes, incorrectly, that risotto must be stirred constantly while you're making it. But it really doesn't need all that much attention, and your natural tendency to walk away from the simmering rice for a minute at a time is actually okay, and you'll still get a great risotto. You need to stir no more than occasionally, so after each addition of liquid, and then maybe once or twice before that liquid evaporates, but not continuously over and over again. You just want to prevent the released starches from scorching on the bottom of the pan and also help to incorporate the fat and the starches to create that perfect texture. From the time you add your first pour of broth, it should just take about 15 minutes for your risotto to be ready. Knowing when to stop adding broth is a technique that's going to come with making the dish a couple of times. Risotto will keep drinking the broth as long as you add it, but you need to pay close attention, and you'll see what is called onde e al dente, meaning it should move in a wave-like motion when it's pushed with the spoon, and the rice grain should be firm but with a lot of creaminess around the grains. You may not need to use all of the broth, so you'll need to taste it and test it for al dente. When in doubt, slightly undercook the risotto because it will continue to cook while it sits. Add your main ingredient back in at this point. Now is when you want to add the butter and the Parmigiano Reggiano and stir really well to emulsify the butter and the cheese. This process is important because it binds together the ingredients and it gives the risotto that desirable creaminess. You want to serve your risotto immediately. The longer it sits, the more liquid it absorbs and the thicker and stickier it becomes.